after the period for public comment has begun. The maximum time for any one speaker is 3 minutes, for a total of 30 minutes. We are moving on now to our Pledge of Allegiance, and we are pleased to welcome students from Garrison Elementary School to lead us in the flag tonight. So when I call your name, please stand. Our first pledger is Annabelle Heng. Fourth grader Annabelle serves as the Student Council President at Garrison Elementary. She is kind and honest and a wonderful role model to her peers. Annabelle is an outstanding student and an avid reader. She enjoys drawing and playing soccer, and following college, she would like to be a marine biologist. Our next pledger is Zanaya Dyer, and fourth grader Zanaya also serves on the student council. She is outgoing and friendly to everyone she encounters. Zanaya is an outstanding student and works hard in class. She enjoys reading and drawing fashion designs. Following college, she would like to be a fashion designer. Thank you both. Can you please stand and lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, girls. Everyone may be seated, and girls, well, we have a certificate for you, and we'd like to take your picture, please. Thank you so much, girls. You did a wonderful job. My grandson's in fourth grade, and it's got to be pretty scary to get up here in front of all these adults, huh? You did a wonderful job. We're moving on. Oh, everybody wants to applaud for you. Thank you. We'll move on now to Dr. Noguchi's welcome announcements.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you, President West. Again, thank you for coming out this evening. I love to see so many people in the room all together, however masked. I see all your smiling eyes, which is great. And also acknowledging those folks that are joining us from home. You know, December is always an exciting time in education. Not only is it the beginning of the holiday season and we're all looking forward to a break, but it's also an opportunity for us to take a moment and look back between August and now, where we've been, and also where we're moving forward as we move forward with this year. And really the plans for next year begin this month. And over the course of really the last couple weeks, we've learned a lot about where we're at, and we're going to come back in January and provide that mid-year review to showcase, really, it appears as though we have developed strategies and techniques to get through COVID. Kids are learning. There is some positive student outcomes that we're going to be happy to report to you. But we still have a lot of work to do and a lot of room to grow. But I am excited about that. The report in January will include math and English language arts benchmarks for student outcomes for those two areas. Our DNF rate as compared to last year. Also our dropout rate. We are now monitoring our dropout rate, not at the end of the year looking back and doing an autopsy, but monthly. Where are we at? Where are those kids? Did we lose them? Did we not? So we have a program called Project Find 'Em, so we're really trying not to lose any kids along the way. Also, intercession data. We have the majority of our schools engaged in intercession this winter break, which again just really speaks to the dedication of our staff. I think 80% of our schools are doing intercession, so that is wonderful, and I thank them for that. So while I'm encouraged at the student outcomes, I recognize there's work to do, and I want to share that with you this next year. I do want to take just a moment to say thank you. As we look back to this year and all the work that we've done an incredible amount of work. And that includes everyone from, the board and everything that you've approved with all the programs and working with the dollars that we've been giving as a result of COVID. Cabinet, who has to put up with me on a weekly basis, and they gave me my mid-year review last week, and I had some things to learn there. Modesto Teachers Association, always out there, again, going the extra mile. CSEA, our managers, our administrators. We couldn't be where we're at if it really wasn't for folks having a tremendous amount of grit and determination, all in support of kids, because there are, we've got a moral imperative, and that is to work to support our students in creating the right conditions, whoever those students are in whatever grade. So I just want to take the time to thank them for that. Modesto City Schools will be out for 2 weeks for winter break. I encourage everyone to relax and rest and rejuvenate. It's the time to really reflect and then come back that third week, and most of the schools will be back doing intercession again. Thank you for agreeing to do intercession. You didn't have to do intercession, and you're choosing to do that. And thank you to the parents for continuing to support us and sending your children each and every day. And I'm confident that together this year we're going to look back, and this year is going to be a successful one, even with all the challenges that we've had given COVID. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to President West.
Thank you. I heard some gasps, so we won't be out for 2 weeks. We'll be out for 3 weeks, I believe. So don't worry, you do get a full 3 weeks.
1 week coming back for intercession.
1 week coming back for intercession. We are looking now for Board of Education member reports. Trustee Mejia.
Sure, I'm happy to report. I was able to participate in my first in-person board trustees kind of statewide. The acronyms are can't, but yeah, I was there. It was fascinating. It was great. I was able to learn, go to a lot of workshops, spent a lot of time learning. So that was really a great experience being there in person and being able to kind of talk to other board members and a lot of folks that are new, like first year, like myself. But I was very excited. That also want to report that I was part of the groundbreaking ribbon cutting at our one of our elementary schools. That was pretty awesome. I think some other board members were part of all that. Maybe they'll report a little bit more details on that. And then thirdly, I'm super excited that we started our first meeting of the Ethnic Studies Committee with community. So that's pretty exciting stuff for our community. And so I just happy to report those few things. And again, I want to echo Superintendent. Thank you everyone for all your work this year thus far.
Thank you. Trustee Marks and then Vice President Lopez.
Yes, it's been a great couple of weeks. It's only been 2 weeks since we met, but yes, I loved going to the Bret Hart ribbon cutting, and being there with all the students was fabulous. It was a chilly night, but it was really fun to see them and just be able to have that new facility that's taken 4 years to get to this point from the fire, and then add on that great training facility. But I can't wait to see the computer lab when it's open and we can go inside. But that was really fun. And then at the CSBA conference, attended a lot of workshops, and then I also am a delegate for CSBA, and so we elected Alfredo Guerrero was the new vice president for CSBA. And then we, because we had our CSBA president pass away this year in the middle of her term, Susan Herrera is going to continue on as president this year, and then she'll start her new year this coming year. So it was a great conference, and it was wonderful to be in person. I missed it last year, but it gave us a lot of opportunities to attend different ones that I wouldn't have been able to go to because the timing was great. And then I attended Opportunity Stanislaus had an open house this week at the Volt facility, which was really fascinating to see that huge facility that's out on, it's really close to the SCOE, to the Stanislaus County Office of Education. And they talked about the new Children's Museum and gave us pictures of that and what that's going to look like. I was so excited for the children in our community. And then also the Coliseum that they're building. They're not calling it a baseball field, they're calling it a Coliseum because it's going to be able to have 11,000 people, be a football, soccer, baseball, and also a concert facility. So I'm excited to see where we're going in our city as the funds come in for that. So that was just kind of a neat thing this week that I was able to attend. So thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Lopez, and then Trustee Brown, and then Trustee Maestas.
Yeah, so I also attended the School Board Association conference. It was a great time. A lot of times it builds up, but this time from presentation number one, we were inspired. I know we got to bring up the changing of at-risk to at-promise students, which I think was the highlight of that of our first speaker. I don't know how that looked like, but I definitely want to bring that, in the future to talk about. I was also at the Bret Hart ribbon cutting. It was amazing to see that when I started out here on the board, our first December was met with the fire for Bret Hart, and to see it, open and seeing students there, parents there, and seeing the potential that it has for not only Bret Hart but for the community at large, it was great. So I really thank everyone that had some input or something to do with getting this building built, but also expanding on what we had, not just giving the school back what they already had. We expanded on it. So thank you very much. And for everyone, I hope you have a wonderful holidays. On behalf of my family, to all yours, thank you for all the work you've done. Thank you for all the hours and all the, whether you're a parent, whether you're a staff member, just the hours you invested into your children this year. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a good break.
Trustee Brown?
Yes. Excuse me. The Bret Hart ribbon cutting was kind of a year-end, December culmination of gratitude to everyone that's involved in great things that are happening in the district right now. And it was fun once again to celebrate construction improvements and to look at what's happening on individual campuses and how much progress we've been able to make this year, with gratitude to our entire community for passing bonds and allowing us to modernize and improve our campuses. Just so much positive is happening for the benefit of all of our students, and it's great to see that. Great to see that at Bret Hart, to come rise out of the ashes and see something great being offered to the students there. Also, CSBA, I've been there over 20 times to the conferences, representing not only this district, but another district that I served on the board previously, and also as a community representative to some statewide committees. I attended CSBA between that service. I think this was one of the best conferences I've ever been to. Great coming back, but there was one piece that stood out to me, and that was the importance of the student voice with regard to school boards. And I was so proud of where our district has come with our representation of student voice on the board. Things that other districts are crying for. And there was a presentation in one of the general sessions by some very significant young leaders in the state. And they were speaking about what they felt was needed for the students. And the thing that they said was the students need to have a voice. They need to be able to speak on behalf of students and have representation on the boards. And to see where we have come with that, and to realize that we have a student who not only represents the other students in our district, but represents every student in the state on the school or the statewide school board. I was just so proud to see where we are compared to where others want to be. And I know we still have room to grow there, but I'm grateful that we have student representation, and that in many cases through the pandemic, we've been led by the needs of the students as their needs have been spoken by the student who represents them on our board. So I think that we've got a lot to be proud of, and I'm sorry that Ronna can't be here today to hear me say this, but appreciate what we have been able to accomplish with that.
Rana has been a real gem. Rana Banaka is our student representative, and she has finals, and so she's busy at home studying tonight, which is where she needs to be, but we'll welcome her back at our next board meeting. Thank you for mentioning her. Trustee Maestas?
Thank you. So I'll try to be pretty brief here. I also went to the CSBA conference with the board. I was able to participate in a CTA breakfast with other fellow teachers that are on board members across the state, and we discussed a lot of policies and legislation that's going to be coming in the near future that might affect boards and teachers and students in particular. So that was quite a great experience to talk those out. I learned a lot of stuff from the sessions, things on equity, and one particular session in improving the success in mathematics in Latino students through self-efficacy, and so that was quite a really good one of my favorite sessions. And lastly, I also want to say thank you to all of the staff, the teachers, everyone out there, especially those. I mean, I'm going to give a shout out, I guess, especially those that are teaching my own kids and taking care of my own kids and every day, whether it's out on the yard duties, out there watching them play. My son's favorite game is wall ball, so out there playing wall ball. When he, falls down and hurts himself, and they go in and the yard duty helps them, the nurse, all those things. When my daughter is trying to find a warm spot like today to eat lunch. All the people that take care of my kids when I can't take care of them during the day, I am especially grateful to all of the work that you do. And I hope that your families have a good holiday. And I thank you for the first half of the year. And I appreciate all the work that you're going to do moving forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I also attended the CSBA conference and went to some wonderful sessions. We had a great keynote speaker. I was really quite impressed with him, and so I'm looking forward to hopefully bringing him here and hearing what he has to say again. I also attended the SAPFA, which is the Salida Public Facilities Financing Committee, and I want to really appreciate the way they run their meetings. I think they're very well run, and so I really appreciated that. So seeing no other lights, we are going to move on to our recognitions. Ms. Noonan.
Thank you so much, Board President West and Board Trustees, Cabinet, and members of the public. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's our final meeting of 2021. Can't believe I'm saying that, but it's good to be here tonight. Recognition is always my favorite part of the meeting. It's we get to celebrate other human beings and just outstanding things that they're doing here in the district. So first up, we're going to celebrate a student with outstanding character through our Character Education Recognition Program. And tonight we are celebrating Orville Wright Elementary 4th grader Naomi Valadez for the character trait of civility. We have Orville Wright Student Assistant Specialist Myra Martinez here, and she nominated 4th grader Naomi, and she's here to present the special award tonight. So if you'd like to come up to Becky, and then you can present the award and then take photos as well. And President West, you'll be coming down for the photo as well as Dr. Noguchi.
So it is very easy to be unconcerned about exemplary students, namely when they are quiet and calm. Then add everything that has ensued due to our current times, and quiet, calm kids disappear in the noise and busyness of the ups and downs of any given day. Our scholar, Naomi Soto Valadez, has continuously exhibited civility. Naomi is extremely soft-spoken and calm. Her demeanor day in and day out is incredible. Naomi has a keen sense for helping others, especially in finding solutions. She is a true peace builder. Naomi is also very athletic, both in sports and class. Naomi's persistence and well-rounded character are beyond worthy of recognition. It is with great pleasure to celebrate her and her kind, courteous way of life. Thank you, Naomi, for being such a wonderful role model for all of us.
Great, congratulations, Naomi. Excellent. Next up, we have our MCS Hero, which is to celebrate Modesto City Schools staff people. And tonight we are celebrating John Muir Elementary Students Records Clerk Cami Lamar. And tonight we have Principal Gareth Soares, I'm so sorry, Gareth. Gareth Soares is here to celebrate Cami, who was nominated by Campus Assistant Kenzie Silva. And Trustee Maestas and Dr. Noguchi, you'll be in this photo.
All right, I could say so many things about Cami, but I'm just going to read what Kinsey wrote. Cami always goes above and beyond for your staff, students, and families. She comes to work ready to help everyone. No matter how much is thrown her way, she tackles every task efficiently and with care. Cami is often referred to as our go-to. She almost always has the answer to any question she is asked. If there's a family in need of resources, she points them in the right direction. When a student needs a device, a Band-Aid, or even just a friend, Cami is always there. This year has challenged many of us, but Cami continues to give 100% to everyone at Muir Elementary, and we are so thankful for her and everything she does. Thank you, Cami.
Excellent. All right. Congratulations, Cami. Okay, next up I have a presentation on the 150th anniversary. As we've discussed, this will be presented in every board meeting in order to celebrate some of the innovative and fun things that we're doing to commemorate our sesquicentennial this year. All right, so as I presented in the last board meeting, I did provide a general overview of what we'll be doing over this next school year to celebrate the 150th anniversary. But tonight I'm specifically going to go into what we're going to be doing on social media, which the social media platforms that we're on are Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So those are the three primary platforms that we'll be using. And as I mentioned in the last board meeting, we are going to be celebrating the 150th anniversary over this entire next school year. As I mentioned previously, the 150th anniversary really does align with all 5 of our district strategic goals, but specifically I'm aligning it with Goal 3, which is to provide a safe and welcoming and respectful learning environment for every member of our school community, and to ensure effective district-wide communications with our students, staff, families, and community partners. So as I mentioned, we'll be doing a series of social media posts. On social media, the key is to have frequency, but also relevant content. So you may see that some of the posts that I'm going to show you, they may look alike, but you never know if someone's going to see them multiple times. So it's always good to reach people at different times of the day, reach people with different designs. We're also going to be updating our MCS for Kids website as well. We're very excited about that. But we will have a page that's specific to the 150th anniversary, excuse me, and then we're also going to be doing a complete rebranding for the entire district page. We're also working on a video series, as I mentioned before, that has various longstanding Modesto community members as well as Modesto City Schools graduates. We're going to be doing digital signage and then historical profiles of Modesto City Schools over the years. So we've been working with an external contractor called Never Boring on some of the different campaign elements for the 150th anniversary. And when you do marketing and when you're doing this type of promotion, it's really good to identify a key theme that you're going to be kind of stitching through every message that you have. So the key theme that we've identified is honoring the past and inspiring the future. Now, that does not take the place of every student matters, every moment counts. We still have, that's our regular tagline. This is the key theme for the 150th anniversary. So you will see that it's integrated into some of the sample graphics that I'm going to show you in just a few minutes. So some of the social media posts that we'll be doing, obviously we'll be going through the process of introducing the 150th anniversary. It's kind of like building a house. You basically build that foundation first, otherwise your house is not going to stand up correctly. So that's the first thing that we're going to be doing. Then, as I mentioned, we're working on producing a video that's going to be separated into multiple 2-minute video segments. I think we're looking for about 5 different segments, so it'll be around a 10-minute video total. That'll have an introduction to our history. We'll talk about different decades and significant achievements over those decades, as well as looking forward and innovation. But one unique thing that we're doing is we're asking the people that we're interviewing, what's some of the advice that you have for the generations to come? You know, what's some imparting advice that you can give them as they look to their future? And then we'll also be doing various posts with historical photos of our schools. We're going to represent the rich diversity that Modesto City Schools has within our student population, as well as featuring some yearbook and class photos just so you can see how much the district has changed over the years. And then we're also working on a timeline graphic too, because there are several school facilities that are no longer here. So we do want to celebrate those as well. So we'll be doing that as part of the campaign. So in terms of the graphics, this is just one of the elements that we have, but whenever you're doing a campaign like this, it's really critical to focus on what's the key takeaway, what do you want people to see when they see this graphic. We wanted to, in this particular case, convey forward motion, but also highlight the seal for Modesto City Schools that features the 150th anniversary. But now you'll see how this is incorporated into a post. So this is a sample post, for example. This would be more likely a Facebook post because Facebook has the graphical orientation of the landscape type of photo. But this was the 14th Street School that was circa, I think that says 1932. But again, honoring the past and inspiring the future. And again, these are sample graphics. That is actually the 14th Street School. But these are just some sample graphics just so you can see some of the directions that we're going in. Here is one of the classes from the 14th Street School circa 1932. Again, it's so cool to see this and to acknowledge the past and all the students who have gone through Modesto City Schools. This gives you an example of how we can then change the graphical format to be used. We could use these on Facebook, we could use these on Twitter. This is actually more appropriate as well for Instagram because Instagram tends to be more that square format. Now this is not the photo that we're going to be using. This is in advertising terms, this is called for placement only. As you can see, it has a copyrighted stamp on that, so we're not going to be using that particular photo. It's my priority where I want to actually use photos of Modesto City School students that are, like I said, diverse and showing the rich tapestry that we have of students. But again, this is really showing that forward where we're going and the future of Modesto. So as I mentioned, we'll have the continued celebration activities throughout the school year, and I'm very excited in the January 18th meeting. I will be able to show some of the brief snippets of the video, and again, that'll be at the January 18th, 2022 board meeting. And I'm happy to take any questions. Again, this is just information only, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
We will go out to the public first to see if we have any comments on this. And seeing none, do we have any questions or comments from board members? Looking for lights. I just want to say thank you for this report, and I'm excited to see how we're going to be able to embrace and honor our history.
Sure.
That's awesome. I love that old picture.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. We're moving on now to item A8, and this is an approval of our annual board reorganization. So we're going to need to move the selection of the board president and vice president to the top of the list from the agenda. So we're moving A8, 10, and A8, 11 to agenda items A8, 1 and A8, 2. So we're moving those to the top, and the other agenda items will go down sequentially in their number, which is A8, 3 through 11. So we're going to begin with the selection of our new board president and vice president. Exciting day. I will oversee the remainder of the reorganization through the selections of the various committee assignments. Then we're going to switch seats, much like musical chairs, and the new president will take over the meeting. So I am looking now for a selection of the new president of the board. So I've been told that I need to give my final remarks as president, as the outgoing president. When I first considered becoming a vice president a couple of years ago, usually the vice president, kind of the way we do it here, is the vice president normally moves up to the president. So your role in leadership is a 2-year commitment, usually. And this was at the end of 2019, or at the end of 2018. And so I thought, the next 2 years look pretty good. Our district's been going smoothly. We have a new superintendent. She's doing a great job. Our cabinet, our teachers, the school district was really, really working like a fine-tuned machine. And I thought 2 years, this is a great time to go into leadership. So my first meeting was in January of 2019. 2 months later, we shut down. And you all know what it's been like the last couple of years. Unexpected for all of us. I think the main takeaway that I have from this last year is the pride I have in our district. I feel that our people have stepped up and done such an amazing, incredible job in serving our students. And, we always talk about our superintendent who didn't bat an eye. I don't know how she remained so calm when we had to shut down schools, but she made decisions and we just put things into practice that we needed to do, and no one became hysterical, at least not on the outside, and moving our schools to closing down that first bit. We have cabinet that worked hours and hours and hours, our leadership. They worked nights, they worked through the weekends. I want to thank everyone for the dedicated service that you all have done. Our school personnel, what a nightmare for them to have to suddenly close their classrooms and go into online teaching. And our teachers did it. They figured it out, even if they didn't know how to do it. And they went into, the distance learning, and I can't thank them enough. We can't forget our classified people, the bus drivers, the nutrition people, our instructional aides, our custodians, our grounds people, our nurses. We have people who had to jump in and do different jobs, some of them, and they just did it. We did what we needed to do. We worked together. And I couldn't be prouder of our district and our employees for that. And then I can't leave out our students and their families who had to scramble and suddenly figure out a new way of learning, and parents had to become teachers, in a way to the kids and monitor it. I think a lot of parents that I talk to have such a new appreciation for our teachers, knowing what they go through. And so our district worked together as a team. We have come through this. We're not done yet. We still have a ways to go, but I'm so proud of everyone and what they've done. And so I'm grateful for that. In my year of serving as president, I'm grateful for the professionalism and the collaboration that I have seen in everyone in this district. So thank you. Thank you. Trustee Lopez.
So, it's been an honor, President West, to work alongside with you. The one thing you all should know that our president throughout these years, the biggest thing that I can say that I on every meeting and every moment. Her passion for our students, her dedication to this district was evident. It's been an honor serving with you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your care more than anything that you've given to this district, and the time and effort you put so that COVID was a little less of a struggle for all of us, because you were just as essential, and our past presidents have been just as essential to making sure that we're here with our staff, with our students. So thank you for your contributions to this board and to the district. We really appreciated your leadership. So I wanted to give you a tiny little gavel of appreciation, but really, oh, I got it wrong. Really, it should be bigger for all your contributions, but please accept this on behalf of all of us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, if any of the board members want to chime in?
This feels funny to call on people to say nice things about me, but Trustee Mejia? Or is this Trustee Brown?
So, Dr. West, Charlene, I recall when you called me when you were considering running for the board. And knowing your experience with students and your focus on their emotional well-being and their needs, I felt like you had something unique to offer. And I encouraged you with my full heart and energy to step up and run for office. And I can't be more proud of the work that you've done. And as I look back and realize the period that you were selected to serve as president of the board was as we were coming through the peak and the return of students to campus. Through this pandemic process, we've learned so much, but your professional background, your ability, your experience to focus on the emotional and the needs of the students from a counseling perspective has been just exactly what we needed as a district this year. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for all your service and the time that you devoted and for the attention that you gave to those kids that needed it the most this year. So thank you.
Thank you. I do remember that conversation, and I said, I'm so busy right now, I don't think I have time to run. And you said, if you really want something done, ask a busy person. I remember you saying that. So thank you for encouraging me. Thank you. Trustee Marks.
I just wanted to let you know that I appreciated working with you last year, going through all the decisions that we had to make on how, and with the superintendent and their staff, and where we were going and how we were going to come back. And just then your leadership this year throughout, going from online teams back to in person, and then tonight, our first night without the barriers, is really cool. So it was a great celebration to have you in this whole transition throughout this year. You've done a great job, and just seeing your passion, your care, your kindness, and your just how you empathize with the students and what's going on and the conversations that you bring to the table. I really appreciate you and that, and how well you've done this last year. It's been great to work with you 2 years ago and then see your leadership this year. So thank you very much for all of your time.
Thank you. I appreciated your mentorship, so thank you. Trustee Mejia?
Yes. Well, I want to thank you for your leadership. I know it's been probably the newest relationship with you this year, but I really value all our conversations, and I look forward to serving with you many years to come. And just your openness to just taking on conversation and being really genuine and just explain the servant leadership that's in you. So I just really appreciate you, and I look forward to many more years of serving the students, the families, and the staff in this district.
Thank you so much. Trustee Maestas?
Yeah, Trustee Mejia pretty much said it all for me there too. coming in the first year, and I remember that call that you made to Trustee Brown was similar to the call that I made to you in about a year and a half ago. So, and I think those words were probably around the same. So thank you so much. You really made the decision easier to run for board, and I appreciate that because I really do. It fills my bucket being here and knowing how much we're moving our district forward. So I like Trustee Mejia said, I look forward to the coming years, and thank you for your leadership this last year.
Thank you. I've enjoyed meeting the 2 new board members, and you add such a valuable component to our board. So I'm so glad to have you both here. Dr. Noguchi?
Absolutely, thank you. We talk about our board and how effective the board is. Highly effective boards really make a difference in the lives of children from the boardroom all the way to the classroom. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. It happens by truly working together as a team. But also for the superintendent, I have a very interesting job insofar as it's, high pressure, lots of work, lots going on. But there's still 7 of you, and you've been a fantastic conduit to the board. And there's times where you speak on behalf of the board. And we've had a pretty crazy couple years, and you've been just as calm throughout as well. And so I appreciate that. And I know last week I spoke on your behalf as well. But thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your time. And all of you, we just need to continue to have a strong governance team because our kids deserve it. This community needs it. And that's our role. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Trustee Brown?
Okay, now I'm not Trustee Brown. I'm speaking on behalf of my friend and fellow brother board member, John Irvin. He's had a chance to act beside you, and he's had a chance to serve beside you also. And I think he would say that when you're at the dais serving as president of the board, you are not acting. You are a genuine soul, and you've done an amazing job. I speak for John. Thanks.
So glad this is on tape. I can go back and look at it later. Thank you all for bearing with us and listening to those wonderful things. I appreciate it. Okay, now we are looking for the selection of our next board president. And so we're going to go ahead and do those changes, and then I'm going to work through the committee. We're going to talk about who's going to be serving on our committees, and then we'll actually change places. So I'm looking for a nomination for the president of our board. And Trustee Marks?
I nominate Trustee Lopez for president.
It was moved by Trustee Marks and seconded by Trustee Mejia. And all those in favor of Vice President Lopez becoming president of this board signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries unanimously. So we're looking now for the selection of the vice president of the board. And so I'm looking for a nomination for the vice president of the board.
I nominate Chad Brown as vice president of the board.
Chad Brown. I want to make sure that Trustee Brown is okay with this. Okay. So moved by Trustee Mejia, seconded by Trustee Marks. For Trustee Brown as Vice President of the Board. So all those in favor signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. So it carries unanimously. Welcome to the Vice Presidency of this board, Trustee Brown. Now we're going to identify members of the board for the various annual committee memberships. So the first membership, we're on section A8.3. And this is to serve on the County Committee on School District Organization. So this position is currently held by Trustee Brown. So I think first I want to know, Trustee Brown, do you wish to continue in this role?
I am happy to continue in that role. And just to point out, it is an occasional meeting when needed, and it doesn't come up very often, but I do have the experience to represent us there.
Okay. All right. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the nomination of Trustee Brown to serve on the County Committee on District School Organization for 2022. And that's Trustee Maestas, and seconded by Trustee Mejia. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, this carries unanimously. The next one is the selection of the board representative and an alternate to serve on the Salida Area Public Facilities Financing, or SAPFA Board of Directors. This is a committee that I am on at this time, and I am willing to keep this position, but we do need an alternate. Do I have anyone who wishes to be an alternate? Okay, Trustee Marks would like to. So I'm looking for nominations to approve Trustee West and Trustee Marks as alternate for the SAPFA Board of Directors for 2022. Trustee Mejia, and seconded by Trustee Brown. All in favor, signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it carries unanimously. Next, we're looking for the selection of 2 board representatives and 2 alternates to serve on the School Infrastructure Financing Agency, which is the CIFA Board of Directors, and they usually meet, it says, 3 times a year. Currently, it's Trustees Irvin, Maestas, and Trustee Maestas, and the alternates are Lopez and Marks. So do you want to maintain those same jobs? Maestas says yes. Trustee Irvin, have you spoken to him? Do you think he would be willing to? And then the alternates, we have Lopez and Marks. Are you willing to still serve as alternates?
I'm willing, but is there anyone else who'd like to? I'm willing, but is there anyone else who'd like to be an alternate? But I'm fine. Okay. I'll stay.
Okay, well,
Stay as an alternate unless you want to
Okay.
do it, or.
it doesn't matter. It's true.
I know.
Okay. So we're looking for motions to approve Trustees Irvin and Maestas, and alternates Trustees Lopez and Marks to the CIFA Board of Directors for 2022. Moved by Trustee Mejia and seconded by Trustee Brown. All in favor signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? See none, it carries unanimously. Next, we're looking for the selection of 1 board representative to serve on the California Association of Large Suburban School Districts Board of Directors. They usually meet 4 to 6 times a year. Currently, this is held by Trustee Marks. Is this something you're willing to still do? So I'm looking for a motion to approve the nomination of Trustee Marks, moved by President Lopez, and seconded by Trustee Maestas. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? See none, it carries unanimously. Moving right along, selection of a board rep, which is usually the vice president, and 1 additional board member and 1 alternate to serve on the District Audit Committee. Currently, this position is held by myself and Vice President Lopez. Alternates is Trustee Mejia. So now the Vice President will be Trustee Brown, and 1 additional board member and 1 alternate. So Trustee Lopez, do you want to still be on this committee as the board member? Lopez, and then alternate, Trustee Mejia, do you want to? Okay. You guys are making it easy on me. All right, so I'm looking for a motion to approve.
Wait, hold on. I have one question.
Mhm.
So it's Vice President Brown,
Mhm.
and then myself,
Mhm.
and then alternative Mejia.
That's correct.
Okay.
So we have the two board positions will be President Lopez, Vice President Brown, and alternate will be Mejia. I'm looking for a motion to approve that.
And I'll second.
Maestas. And seconded by Trustee Marks. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? See none. Passes unanimously. Almost done. Three more. Selection of a Board of Representative to serve on the Construction Committee. And currently this is held by Trustee Brown. So Trustee Brown, is this something you wish to continue?
I have to admit, it's my passion, yes.
It's your passion. Okay, well, we can't take that away from you. So I'm looking for a motion to approve Trustee Brown for the board rep on the Construction Committee. Trustee Mejia, seconded by Trustee Marks. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? See none. Passes unanimously. Selection of 3 board representatives, which are usually the president, the vice president, and 1 additional board member to serve on the Budget Advisory Committee. And so currently this is held by myself, Vice President Lopez, and Trustee Marks. So now this will be President Lopez, Vice President Brown. Trustee Marks, are you still good to serve on that one?
I am, and what's you like to? Would Trustee West like to continue on it, or?
That time doesn't work for me
Okay.
anymore,
I'm
so if
happy
you're
to
okay with
continue.
that?
Yes, I'm happy
Okay,
to
perfect.
continue, unless there's somebody else.
All right, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the nomination of President Lopez, Vice President Brown, and Trustee Marks to serve on the Budget Advisory Committee for 2022. Moved by Trustee Maestas, seconded by Trustee Mejia. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, carries unanimously. I believe this is the not quite last one. Selection of 3 board reps to serve on the School Equity Committee. The committee will meet quarterly, currently held by Vice President Lopez, Marks, and Irvin. So, Trustee Marks and Trustee Lopez, is that a committee you still wish to serve on?
I would like to. I've been able to make almost all the meetings except one, I think, in the last 2 years, or year and a half.
And Vice President Lopez, this is the Equity Committee.
I would like to actually nominate Trustee Mejias to for the position, and Trustee. So there's 3, right?
Yes,
We need 3.
and I
Yes.
said yes.
So Trustee Marks would like to continue. Trustee Mejia
And Trustee.
and
I would actually nominate Trustee Mejia, Trustee Maestas, or Trustee Irvin to the position, but however.
so Trustee Irvin is currently on already. Do we know, Dr. Noguchi, if he would like to
I think he's
continue? I thought so too. This is kind of a coveted position. So Trustee Irvin will continue. So then instead of President Lopez, would Trustee Mejia or Trustee Maestas like to be on that committee?
I would, but
Yes.
I knew this would happen.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
I'll withdraw my motion and admit board member Maestas be taking that committee instead of myself.
So Trustee Maestas, is that something you would like to do? Okay. All right. All right. So I'm looking for nominations to approve, or a motion to approve the nomination.
So, wait, I will withdraw mine, and Trustee Mejia and Maestas and Irvin make the nomination for Trustee Maestas, Mejia, and Irvin to serve on the Equity Committee. So I will make that motion. We can, I don't know if we have to withdraw the last motion.
We'll redo it. So you're okay with that, and are you okay with that? Okay. All right. All right, so we are looking for a motion to approve the nomination of Trustees Maestas, Mejia, and Irvin to the School's Equity Committee. Looking for a motion to approve that.
Seconded.
Vice President Brown, seconded by President Lopez. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? See none, carries unanimously. And this is our last one. Selection of one Board of Representatives to serve on the Association of Stanislaus County School Boards, and this is currently held by Trustee Brown. Is this something you wish to continue?
I think I can do it for one more year.
One more year, okay? So I'm
Invite
looking,
someone to be prepared to take that next year.
okay, thank you. I'm looking for a motion to approve the nomination of Trustee Brown to serve on the Association of Stanislaus County School Boards.
I move approval.
Approval by Trustee Marks, seconded by
Mejia.
Trustee Mejia. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? See none, carries unanimously. Now, we are going to make this official. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And let's change seats. President Lopez and Vice President Brown, please take your new position. You can get your briefcase later if you want.
Thank you. No. Okay, are we all ready to go? Okay, we're moving on to item A9, approval of consent agenda. Are there any comments regarding consent agenda items from the public?
Yes, we have one. Ms. Chambers? I can speak. There was one that came in via email. Information was sent to all the board members earlier today, and it's actually in front of you.
Okay. So,
So the request was to pull item C2. So that was the request.
okay. Does anyone want to make the motion to do that? No? Okay. All right, so hearing none from board members, now we go to approval of the consent agenda. Anyone want to motion the approval of the consent agenda as it is? Motion by Trustee Mejia and a seconded by Trustee Marks. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. We're moving on to A10, approval of order of discussion and action. Do I hear a motion to approve the order of discussion items? I hear a motion from Trustee West, and do I hear a second? Oh, Trustee Mejia? Okay, all those in favor of approving the order of the consent agenda, approving the order of the discussion action items, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any nays? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, moving right along. Okay, this takes us to our period for public presentations. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting and showing your interest in our schools. I have 2 cards for tonight, and I ask each speaker to come to the podium and address the board. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. The first person I have is Mr. Curtis Lee. Welcome. Hello. I'm Curtis Lee.
Can you pause his time?
Hello? Okay. My name's Curtis Lee. I'm here today to talk a little bit about harassment in the school place. I have 2 students, Modesto City School students, one 8th grader and another junior in high school. Recently, my 8th grade daughter has had some problems on the Modesto City Schools bus that were directly racially charged. The N-word was used. Go back to Africa was used. I've talked to the assistant principal last week about it. He has addressed the issue, and he's like working on trying to figure out a way to identify like who it is, because it's actually a group of kids, you know, and my daughter can't really identify who it is. But this is just a specific example. It's been going on for quite a while, not just in junior high or high school. It's also been going on since elementary. That's my main point is this race issue, especially the use of the N-word, is pretty common throughout like our schools, not just here in Modesto, but pretty much nationwide. And I feel that we need some type of education for our kids, for the kids in school. We talked about, I heard in the presentation, one of our goals were respect and a safe learning environment for all students. And I think this is a real topic that we need to address somehow. I know we don't allow this in a workplace for sure. You know, it's definitely addressed. And I think we should have some type of educational training for our students on a consistent basis. I know it won't change everything, but it'll be a step in the right direction. I really think so. And not just for my kids, for other kids, you know, that are going through the same thing. We had issues with the incident in Turlock. And I heard some things about that where the kid was being bullied, and he just snapped. So I think this is a issue that really needs to be addressed. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next we have, and sorry if I mispronounced your last name, Amy Pizzoni, Gabriel Holston, and Joanne McKinney. Welcome.
I'll wait for the timing.
Hudson.
Hi, my name is Gabriel Hustleton, the Enochs High School Systems and Software Development Pathway President. I just wanted to take a moment to share with you guys what our pathway is doing. We are a growing pathway with almost 400 students. We currently have 3 teachers and about half the school last year, which is about 2,600 students. So about it's 1,500 balloted for all of our classes last year. And we currently have 9 classes right now, and next year we're looking to expand to 11 classes and hopefully gain 2 new CTE certified teachers. Our goal is to create a safe environment for students and provide enrichment to their lives by giving them a chance to learn life skills and earn certifications. We've begun to integrate Skills USA into our pathway, which allows for different types of certifications and opportunities. An example of a certification opportunity that happened just 2 weeks ago, our cybersecurity classes offered CompTIA ITF Plus certification to all students in that pathway. We trained them, we learned their lessons, went through all their programs, and I think about 40 to 50 kids actually got certified, which is a lifelong certification that never expires, which is super cool, and it's an intro into the CompTIA certifications. We also have multiple community opportunities, such as the SSD leadership team, which has planned multiple events and fundraisers for the entire pathway, including a field trip to San Francisco that transpired December 1st this year. We also have other clubs like Girls Who Code to encourage women in our field to engage themselves in a male-dominated field. And we also have Cyber Patriot, which Jonah McKinney will speak on more.
Hi, my name is Jonah, obviously. And so our school has the Cyber Patriot Path or Club, which is a cyber competitions club. So we compete in many different clubs throughout the school year. The one that we're doing right now is called Cyber Patriot, and our last competition round was Saturday, which was the state round. Our top team placed top 2% nationwide. And so that team will now go on to semifinals. Yeah, our school is also offering an internship to our cybersecurity 3-4 class that is at the what's the name of at the tech room, which offers like basic IT experience through an internship that can lead to jobs. And this is a very, very appreciated opportunity that we have that we're getting to learn in high school.
So in the last 5 seconds, thank you so much for supporting career technical education programs to give opportunities like these that are mostly planned by students, supported by you. And really a special thanks to at the district, Rachel Barkus, and our principal, Amanda Moore, who's a stream advocate, and we couldn't do it without her. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all the speakers tonight. And again, although we cannot engage in discussion or take formal action on items on the agenda, we thank you for following our protocols and addressing the board, and thank you for taking time to share your views with us this evening. We'll be moving on to item B1, student representative to the board report, and unfortunately she's not here with us tonight, as we mentioned earlier. So we have a...
Yes, I have Student Representative Bananca's report. Let's see here. I will do my best to represent her. Hi everyone, I hope you're all having a great day. Although I wish I could be here in person, I still hope this board report can give you some valuable insights into student voice in our district. At our last inter-high meeting, we continued to flesh out the logistics for our service project, which will raise funds for Chemo Crew. We decided that the fundraising period will be 1 week long and will begin sometime in early February. Our funds will be used to help finance the kits that Chemo Crew is putting together for Spanish-speaking patients, which we're really excited to be helping out with. We also talked about our goals as a council this year, and students spoke about the importance of creating more pathways for students to have their voices heard and continuing to build on the work our district has done to publicize socio-emotional support resources. I also recently had the pleasure of attending the annual CSBA, which for those who don't know, that's California School Boards Association, conference in San Diego, where I was able to meet student board members from all across the state and learn from them about the advocacy they do in their districts. I even was able to attend some of the presentations about school district funding and the achievement gap, which I found to be extremely informative. I just want to thank the board for giving me the opportunity to attend this conference, as it taught me so much about education policy and what it means to be a board member. Finally, I see that in item B3 tonight, we are having a report on the socio-emotional support survey, And I just wanted to say that I look forward to working with Ms. Hinkle and district staff to share information about student perspectives from the Inter-High Council regarding how we can improve the awareness of social-emotional resources and make sure students feel comfortable seeking help. That concludes my board report. I hope you all have a happy holiday season, and I'll see you in January.
Thank you very much for reading that for us. Now we'll be moving on to B2, California Schools Employee Association report. Do we have anyone in the audience speaking on their behalf tonight?
The president and the vice president are not here tonight.
Thank you very much. Seeing none, we'll move on to B3. And this is a report on our student social emotional support survey. And I believe this is Ms. Hinkle.
All right, just checking to make sure this is on. Sounds like it is. All right, good evening, Board President. I was going to say Dr. West, Mr. Lopez, members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Dr. Noguchi, Executive Cabinet, and guests. I'm Danielle Hinkle, Senior Director of Student Support Services, and this evening I'll be providing a report on the Social Emotional Support Survey that is administered to students. Before I begin the meat of my presentation, I just want to take a moment to remind the board and others in the audience that last fall was the first time Modesto City Schools administered the Social Emotional Support Survey. At that time, we understood that students were experiencing a very challenging time as they began a new school year, continuing in distance learning. Students were not able to see and socialize with friends on a daily basis. They could not fully engage in school activities, and the students did not have the same access to fully engage in positive adult relationships with their teachers and other trusted adults on campus. When we were in distance learning, whether students were from nurturing homes with many needed supports or from homes filled with trauma and less than ideal living situations, we knew that students were all impacted to some degree. The goal of the survey at implementation was to ascertain if students knew how to access social emotional supports at their school, including knowing who to contact. Although students have now returned to school in person, we are continuing to survey them again to gain knowledge and further develop their understanding of supports available on campus. In my report this evening, I will briefly highlight the current social emotional supports we have in place for our students. I will share a comparison of survey data from beginning of year last year to beginning of year this year, and I'll share out the next steps based on that information. This work is aligned to district goals 1 and 3, with an emphasis on 1.4, develop a multi-tiered system of supports for all students, and 3.3, increase regular two-way communication with stakeholders regarding student progress and other important issues. So in speaking about what's available for our students, the first layer of support for students is often with our own Modesto City Schools staff. Most notable are our impressive and mighty force of school counselors, as well as our school psychologists, whose work involves students' mental health needs, behavior support, learning needs, and social emotional learning strategies. While psychologists and school counselors are at the forefront of this work, I would be remiss if I did not also include all of the other caring adults on campus who serve in an unofficial capacity of supporting the well-being of our students. These are individuals like our administrators, our teachers, our athletic coaches, our advisors of co- and extracurricular activities, and campus supervisors, just to name a few. Modesto City Schools also provides a number of web-based resources for students, parents, teachers, and counselors. These resources are located on the Modesto City Schools website and are also available for staff in the Schoology platform. Modesto City Schools staff also support students and families with referrals to outside agencies for students in need. Some of these outside agencies include Stanislaus County Behavioral Health, Community Hospice, Sierra Vista, Hutton House, and the newly opened Youth Navigation Center for our homeless youth. In addition, as you know, Modesto City Schools support for students also includes a very robust contract with the Center for Human Services, or CHS. CHS provides student support specialists at all 34 school sites. We have intervention center specialists at our 712 sites, and family support specialists as well as mental health clinicians at our K8 sites. These providers serve students and in many cases their families with a number of social, emotional, and counseling related services that ultimately help students to be more successful at school. While we're very fortunate for the partnership that we have with CHS, and we are thrilled to be able to provide these additional supports, I certainly need to mention that CHS, like many businesses, has also faced some hiring challenges this year. And while staffing of these many positions has greatly improved since the beginning of the year, not all contracted positions are fully staffed at this time. In addition to the CHS contracted providers, Modesto City School students have access to and receive support from Stanislaus County Behavioral Health Continuum of Community Support. That's a mouthful. High school sites have a substance use disorder counselor on their campuses as part of the BHRS grant. And additionally, as part of the restructure and reorganization of behavioral health and recovery services, 16 of our school sites have a prevention and early intervention clinician available 2 to 3 days per week. These clinicians are strategically placed to supplement existing provider support through our contract with CHS. While we have a very firm support structure in place, we felt it necessary to gauge students' awareness of the various supports, hence the survey. The 8-question survey is provided to students in grades 4 through 12 3 times per year, beginning of year, middle of year, and end of year. As mentioned, it's primarily used as a means to determine students' level of awareness of the social emotional supports on campus, and our teachers are the conduit for delivery of the survey through the Schoology platform. In this chart, we're looking at beginning of year comparison results. So beginning of year last year compared to beginning of the year this year. We continue this year to have a very large number of students responding to the survey. We had close to 11,000 student responses in September. And for the first question, when we asked if students knew who to contact for social emotional support, we saw an increase of 14% this fall. Meaning that 81% of students knew who to contact. And just to put it into numbers, that's about 8 out of every 10 students who responded. When asked if they knew how to access supports, again, we saw an increase, this time of about 10%, up to 79% of students responding favorably, saying they knew how to access the supports. And again, this is about 8 out of 10 students who responded. On the next slide, when students were asked to identify the various individuals on campus they could contact for support or assistance, it is no surprise that teachers and school counselors are identified the most. If you look at all of the other support options like school psychologists, student assistance specialists, etc., we did see an increase this year as compared to last year as students identifying these individuals as someone they could reach out to for help or support. For the next slide and question on the survey, we know that we have many students who are accessing the social emotional supports, but we did ask them, if you're not accessing them, how come? Why aren't you accessing them? We'd like to know more about that. Those who are not accessing supports, most indicated they either didn't feel they needed any help or support at this time, or that they relied heavily on their family or friends as a support system. On slide 10, this is kind of a continuation of the previous slide where we were asking, if you're not accessing the supports, please let us know why. Other selections that students chose were that they were not comfortable speaking with someone that they did not know, or that they didn't want other people to know that they were experiencing a need for help. In both of those, especially the one about I don't feel comfortable speaking with people I don't know, we did see a little bit of an uptick there. 1% last year responded to that question compared to 10% of those surveyed this year. At the conclusion of the survey, there was a final open-ended question asking students if there was anything else they wanted us to know about their social, emotional, or mental health needs. In that open-ended question, approximately 99% of students either didn't respond, it was open-ended, so they had the option, or they responded with a positive comment such as, I feel like I'm in a pretty good place right now. In thinking about next steps from the survey results, we're focusing on several areas. We've heard this a few times tonight, but I would like to bring it up again. The whole idea of student voice. We often hear from students that even after returning to school and some sense of normalcy, many are still struggling and are feeling that they're just not okay. I'd like to share with you some great work that's led by School Leadership Director Lori Hewlin, who is here this evening in the audience. She's got some great work going on with the Superintendent's Student Advisory Council, which is a student group that Lori leads in conjunction with Dr. Noguchi. And in this group, they are working to determine areas in which they feel support is needed and the identified resources or staff that they can turn to. In their most recent meeting just a few weeks ago at the beginning of December, this student council looked at identifying specific supports that they are aware of on campus, including individual adults that they felt they could turn to. And that group had some great conversation, sharing their experiences of being able to reach out to a teacher for help and support and assistance. And we also heard from a few kids who said, I hear other kids sharing that, but me as an individual, I'm not that person. I'm not always comfortable, reaching out to others. And so in their next meeting, Mrs. Hewlin will assist students and facilitate a conversation into diving deeper into that conversation and exploring how we can increase their awareness, the awareness for all students, as well as how to help reduce the stigma for those who are seeking mental health support. Mrs. Hewlin also leads and supports the Inter-High Council with Rana, and that group is also going to further explore methods for marketing and promotion of supports when the Inter-High reconvenes in January. We think that we have a great support system and we have ideas and thoughts, but we really need to hear from the kids about how can we better get the word out to other kids and make it feel like it's a welcoming experience for them. My second bullet up there, schools are also going to continue with providing education for students on how to access the needed supports. Our school counselors are conducting classroom presentations to share information, and there's also information on our school social media sites. The district office, led with Krista and Becky, they also routinely provide social media and website promotion of all available supports. These are supports that are available both within Modesto City Schools as well as in the county. And as previously mentioned, we are giving surveys again right now, actually in this window. We're in the mid-year survey right now. And we're going to be excited to share out that mid-year data in January when we return. This concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And again, Ms. Hewlin is here as well if you have additional questions for her regarding the student work.
Thank you, Mrs. Hinkle. I'm going to go out to the public to see if there's any comments or questions from the public. Seeing none, board members, if you want any comments. I see Vice President Brown, then Trustee West, and then Trustee Maestas. So Vice President Brown.
I especially appreciate the outreach to the students for their voice in where the needs are. As I look at what's happening within our district and statewide and nationwide, we've seen a shift in motivation with a lot of our students. And I don't know that we understand really what is behind that from their perspective. So I'd really like to dig deep into, if you feel less motivated to perform, why? And I'd also like to have us discuss with the students issues of grades. If your grades have dropped significantly, what is causing that? It's helpful if we hear from them what their needs are rather than always second guessing them and trying to provide things that we think they need. So I am just such a strong proponent of hearing their voice and allowing them to be powerful enough to drive the change. So thank you so much for this effort. This is so helpful.
Thank you.
Oh, that's so far away. Thank you for this report. It's close to my heart, being a retired school counselor, and so I'm so happy that our district realizes that mental health is a huge issue and that we're putting resources into this because I think it is much, much needed. We know that a lot of students won't reach out, so we have to do something to for the adults to reach out to the kids to find out what they need, because sometimes kids are feeling certain ways and they don't know how to go about getting that help. Even though we tell them and we put it on the website and here's how to do stuff, sometimes kids need adults to reach out to them first. And so I know that's something that you're going to be looking at. On top of the support for students, we've seen nationwide in the last few years, even before COVID, I was seeing a lot of students with increased levels of depression and anxiety, and now even more so with COVID. And not just our students, but their families are feeling it, and our staff is feeling it. Do we have included in this ways that we can support the adults in the children's lives, whether it's staff members or family members?
As far as the families go, we do have, as working with small groups of parents, but we do have our family support specialists that can work directly with families. While their primary role is to support students who are not engaging in school and not showing up to school, they can also support the family with other needs. Mady's team does some great work with families and providing presentations, etc. For them. That's another pocket, again, but it's, parents who are self-selecting and choosing to go to that. If parents call in and need help and support, we certainly help to direct them to the appropriate resources for them, which is typically through Stanislaus County Behavioral Health for the adult side. Could we do more? Absolutely. There's always room to outreach even more than we do.
And is there anything that we're doing specially for our staff members, our teachers, our certificated and our classified people?
Mr. Henderson would like to comment on that.
Yeah, it's kind of timely that you asked that. We just conducted through our Employee Benefits Department a wellness survey, and we had a really tremendous response, over 950 responses, which is, typically see that kind of responses, and as well as over 500 responses to an open-ended question about how can we support you to maintain, work-life balance. So we just discussed some of that feedback from the survey, some of the key sort of themes that came from that. We're working with Alliant, which is our insurance broker, and they helped us compile the results. And so we put together a tentative calendar thematically of messaging. We tried to figure out with staff what topics do they want to hear about, what mechanism would they like to use to hear information on wellness. And we got some really good feedback. So that's in the beginning stages, and we're going to partner with Student Support Services, IT, and I forget who else we were going to bring together, and talk about the rollout of that plan of how we can meet staff needs specifically for that.
I remember years ago when I was working for the Sylvan District, I don't know if Trustee Brown, Vice President Brown remembers this, but for a while they offered their employees some yoga. We had some yoga classes that were offered periodically throughout the week that was just beneficial to a lot of the staff.
That was a suggestion, actually, that came up a number of times in the comments. Some quiet space, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, those types of things seem to be just some sort of break, relaxation from the regular activity.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hinkle.
Thank you.
Trustee Maestas and then Trustee Mejia.
Thank you. Gosh. On slide 9, students were asked, 56% said I am not feeling sad, stressed, or depressed. That tells me that 44% are or have been.
So the way the question was framed is, if you're not accessing some of the supports that we offer on campus, can you share with us your reasons why? And students also had the opportunity to select as many as they would like.
Right.
So yes,
Still
sort of, yes.
a number, right?
Yes,
That's going to be high. My initial thought in seeing all this, my big thought in seeing all this is that I would really like to see if there are differences among secondary students in particular. So, because just kind of being dialed in with secondary students, there's a pretty high percentage of students that are stressed. And I kind of would like to know, like Trustee Brown had mentioned, a little bit more like what is this? What are the stressors? Right, like what's causing it? What are the stressors there? And then if we knew what those stressors were, how could we support the students around that?
I'll be honest with you, in the open-ended question at the end where we asked students if there's anything else that they'd like us to know, many responded that if they're feeling stressed or anxious, it's because of classwork, grades, those types of things. So those are things that we can take into consideration as we're thinking about how to best support kids on campus.
Right, because, a lot of students, there are students out there that have lots of stressors at home, right? There are things at home that are going on that we don't know about because they tend to hide stuff, like we saw in here, 26%. COVID,
Right.
Health of family members, their own health. And then to add on to that stress, we could be doing something about that without lowering our expectations.
Right.
And so I'm thinking that that's a place where we can really explore a little bit more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Mejia.
Yeah, thank you for the report. My short is very short. Thank you for the report. And my other thing is, are we encouraging our teachers to also, move forward some names? Because sometimes I think in my experience with young people, sometimes they don't bring it up, but teachers know each other, know their students well, and sometimes we encourage them as leaders or people kind of supervising them. Are they encouraging it? Do you see a student, do a soft referral or something? I don't know. It's just a comment, because sometimes teachers are the front lines, kind of seeing. They can see their ups and downs day in and day out, and sometimes teachers kind of taking the initiative to recommend students would be just my comment. But again, thank you for the report, but I just want to put that as a.
And just to clarify, the nice thing about the big contract we do have with the center is they've been with us a long time, and I would say that the teachers are very familiar, the administrators are very familiar with the referral process and who to refer to when they notice something that potentially they don't feel comfortable handling. So yes.
In January, we'll have data for the number of individuals that have been seen from the different services that we have here. It's not mid-year yet. They're capturing that data this month, but we'll be able to report out on that data in January.
Great. Thank you for all that. I just had a quick question. This survey was created by who in specific? And just
It was a collaborative effort in student support services. We didn't use an outside survey. We created the questions ourselves.
Great, definitely. I agree with what Trustee Maestra was mentioning about wanting to really dive down a little bit deeper into seeing the results from different cohorts, different backgrounds, to see where how this same question looks in different of our groups, right? Instead of being in one large district collective. But thank you so much for the report, and this is a report only item, so we'll be moving on to our next. But our next item, thank you so much for. But before we do so, I had a couple requests for a 10-minute break. So we're going to be taking a 10-minute break, and we'll be coming back. Let's say 11, so we come back at 7:50, if that's okay with everyone. Yes? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to convene us back, and we'll move on to item B4, approval of first reading of proposed revision to board policy BP 6144, controversial issues. And this is Mr. Rich.
Good evening, President Lopez, trustees, Superintendent Noguchi, and Cabinet. Tonight, we're going to bring forth the first read of Policy 6144, Instruction Regarding Controversial Issues. This policy was last updated in November of 1973. It was updated before I was updated. You will note a significant number of changes marked in red, and this reflects the changing to really address the CSBA's suggested language. Also, you'll notice that the prior one did not have all the ed code referenced in it like we do now. Proposed changes match the suggested language more or less from CSBA. And in reviewing this policy, we did reach out to several teacher groups as well as MTA leadership. Lines in black on the policy have been added outside of the CSBA's suggested language to reflect their feedback specifically regarding controversial issues and the need to have them addressed within the standards and the framework of the curriculum. In a recent conversation just today with Dr. Janine Zambo, she had this to say about the meeting that the social science department chairs had. So both junior high and high school history social science department chairs examined the proposed language for BP 6144. We were happy with the transparency of being included in this process, as our discipline regularly addresses controversial and sensitive topics. Instructors appreciate this board policy not only for the guidance, but also for the protection that it offers. Our conversation regarding the language was one of the most academic and thoughtful discussions I recall the group ever engaging in. We support the language in this first read, with the exception of the 3 words in bullet number 2. So bullet number 2, I'll read this for you before I read the rest of her comments, says, instruction shall be presented in a balanced manner, addressing all sides of the issue without bias or prejudice, and without promoting any particular point of view. History social science recognizes that issues in our discipline are rarely binary, and many have no credible opposing side. We propose editing the language to say multiple perspectives instead of all sides, as this language is more inclusionary and more in line with the current framework language. It's also so end quote from Dr. Zambo. It's also, when we talk about the word all, it's pretty hard in a language of to do all of everything. That's a pretty hard word to measure to match up to. The guideline still talks about presenting it without bias or prejudice and without promoting any particular point of view. I'm grateful for the honest and healthy conversation that had, and at this point, I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Rich. We're going to go out to the public. Is there anyone wanting to speak on this item from the public? Seeing none, we're going to move to our board members. Any questions or comments? Do I see any lights? I see Trustee Marks.
Good evening. Yes, good to update things if they haven't been updated since 1973, though I did appreciate both sides of reading both articles on where it was and where it is today. So could you remind me again, it said changing the word all sides to multiple sides, is that what?
All sides to multiple perspectives.
Multiple perspectives, that was it. Okay, and then I wanted to see, so then I wanted to ask the board if it would be, if we could change one word. We had the word tolerance in this. In the first paragraph, it said the ability to discriminate between fact and opinion, respect for others, and understanding and tolerance of diverse viewpoints. I like the word respect. We had changed our, we had a huge committee, 100 and some odd community members, and we changed our principles of rights, respect, and responsibility. We changed it from tolerance to that because people don't want to be tolerated, but they want to be respected, and that's why we changed it. So I prefer the word respect in that. And then the other one, and it says it again later in this item, and then also Just one thing on number 6, it says adequate factual information. I didn't know why we needed the word adequate, but I thought just factual information shall be provided, but I didn't know if there was a reason that it said adequate. I know CSBA put this together, but do you know if adequate?
I think the distinction would be an appropriate amount of material versus
Okay.
just one fact versus what are the facts, but that's just me interpreting it.
All right, so
Yeah.
adequate is fine. I just was trying to understand why the word adequate was there. That was my only question. So those were my, my changes, so.
Great. Mr. Trustee Maestas, sorry.
Mr. Rice. I agree with Trustee Marks. Can we just remove the word tolerance, and because the word respect is in the previous line, so there's no need to be.
True.
First paragraph. Yeah, it's the very bottom of the first paragraph. It says critical thinking skills, ability to discriminate between fact and opinion, respect for others, so there's respect, and understanding of diverse points of view. I don't think we need tolerance in there.
I agree, that will work.
And then I would also agree with changing all sides to multiple perspectives of the issue without bias or prejudice.
Yeah, I should have said that, but thank you for bringing that back up.
Yeah, and then that is a weird word to use, adequate.
I know, I couldn't figure out what, so give another word, somebody. If
How about
have
we just
another
take
word.
it out?
And just do factual information shall be provided to all students. That's what, to me, that's, if I was told that as a teacher, I'd just look for factual information and share it.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so take out the word adequate.
Is there any, Trustee West?
I just want to agree with both Trustee Marks and Trustee Maestas on those changes.
Great. So as I see it, is we're getting rid of the word tolerance, and we are getting rid of the word adequate, and then changing to what was the actual
Multiple perspectives.
multiple perspective.
Thank you. Perfect.
Great. Who would
So I'd like to motion that we pass this with the changes stated, those 3 changes.
Great. Do I hear a second?
Right.
Second by Trustee West. I saw a light. I don't know why.
That
it
was my light
okay.
to say that.
Oh, we have a question before.
Does this need to come back to us for a second reading?
It comes back in consent at the next board meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so let me see here. So we have a motion and a second to approve B4, approval of the first reading of the proposed revision to Board Policy 6144, controversial issues, with the revisions already addressed. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, first reading passes unanimously. Okay, now we're moving on to B5, which is our approval of the first interim financial report for the 2021-2022 and positive financial certification. And this presentation will be from Mr. Surley.
Thank you, President Lopez. Good evening, trustees. Tonight, I'm pleased to review highlights of our first interim financial report, which is in detail in your packet or on agenda online. Tonight, we're going to be looking at various assumptions that we use not only for this year, but for our projection years, called the multi-year projection, around average daily attendance, revenue assumptions, and expenditure assumptions. And then we'll have some time for any questions regarding the report and the presentation. This, while our budget supports all of our district's strategic goals, this is directly aligned with strategic goal 4, as you see on this slide, which is ensuring the district is fiscally and operationally sound. Operationally is there because our budget should support and does support the operations of the school district. Although the district maintains many funds, the first interim report focuses on Fund 1, or our operating budget for the district. Fund 1 includes unrestricted and restricted funds. Unrestricted funds are not subject to any specific constraints and may be used for any educational purpose not prohibited by law. The local control funding formula are unrestricted. The funds are unrestricted, but the supplemental and concentration funds must be used to increase services for the most at-risk students or the students that generated the funds through the supplemental and concentration grant program. Restricted funds are received by an external source, and they are legally restricted by the donor to be used for specific purposes. You can see some examples of various restricted funds that we have included in our budget. Last year and this year, COVID funds, and we'll talk specifically about those, both federal and state. The Every Student Succeeds Act, which is ESSA, Special Education, IDEA, and then we have other state-funded programs and local funds that are also included in our general fund budget. So here's ADA assumptions, not only for the current year, but for the projection years. And we do have an increase to our projected funded ADA of 123.6. That is due to timing when we adopt the budget by June 30th. We don't know our final attendance numbers for the year until the end of July. And so you see an adjustment here accounting for final 2021 attendance reporting. But we are projecting flat enrollment currently in the subsequent years for the multi-year projection. Depending on our official reporting in December for the current year, 21-22 school year, that'll be our first period reporting for attendance. We may change at second interim. We may change this assumption at second interim, which is March, to a decrease depending on how our attendance comes in later on at the end of this month. We will discuss a potential, you probably heard this at the school board's conference, for an ADA cliff as early as 22-23, that's next year. And that's because our current year funding is based on 2019-20 enrollment and attendance figures. And we'll talk a little bit about that in detail, which you see on this slide in a graphical presentation. And so, while the 21-22 school year in many ways represents a return to normal for us after the pandemic year, this slide is a graphic illustration of the impending ADA funding cliff in 22-23. We did not record final attendance for the 2021 year, the year of the pandemic, the shortened year, so we are still being funded at the 2019-20 student attendance figures. We have 2 years of declining enrollment for the elementary district from 19-20 to now, or a loss of 607 students during that time. Typically, the way it works is you're funded on the greater of the current year or prior year. So we always have 1 year when we're declining enrollment of relief before we hit that. But now we're going to be facing potentially 2 years in 22-23. Thankfully, the high school district, which is the line that's going in the opposite direction, has grown by 395 students over the same period. So we're looking at potentially a net funding loss of 212 students in 22-23. And then you can see we again, we have flat projections right now. We're going to monitor our student enrollment, but if there's any good thing for 22-23, we'll be funded at the greater of that year or 21-22. So if we continue to decline, we will be at the current year 21-22 levels for funding purposes. This is a graphical illustration, a pie chart of our general fund revenue, and this truly is a COVID budget. And so, and what I mean by that is if you look at the federal revenue, that's 27%. We normally don't see slices of our pie, our revenue pie, this big. And for instance, last year, a year ago at first interim, federal revenue was 15%. At this time last year, and our LCFF revenue was 73% of our budget. So you'll see the impact of the COVID funds that we received from the federal government in last year, and how it looks in our overall revenue budget. Now you see our assumptions for the multi-year projection, our local control funding formula revenue assumptions, and based upon the current California economy, the 22-23 COLA or cost of living adjustment to our revenue factors is estimated to be 5.35%. What you see on the slide, the middle line, 22-23, at the time, or currently, and at the time we did this report, the estimate for next year is 2.48%. This is a function of the state's economy, and so since the state's economy is doing much better, right now we're hearing that the COLA for next year is projected to be excess of 5% or around 5.35%. We won't know for sure until January when the governor releases the budget proposal for next year, but that is a positive outcome of the current the COVID environment. This slide shows the funding generated by grade span per student for our LCFF calculation. Our elementary district receives a significant amount of supplemental and concentration funding due to the high percentage of unduplicated pupils. And you'll notice that on the first line for the elementary district, it's almost 87.5% is our unduplicated pupil percentage, and that drives our supplemental and concentration grant funding. One item to note, or two items to note, you'll see there's two add-ons. One for TIG, that's the old Targeted Improvement Instruction Grant, and then Transportation Add-on. These are set and have remained at the 2012-13 funding levels, and they never increase. They do not receive annual COLA increases like what you see above for the base grant or the other per pupil areas. So that's something we'd like to see change because, as we know, our transportation costs increase every year, but this is the level that it will never increase from currently in legislation. Same information for our high school district, but a significantly lower unduplicated pupil percentage of 67% versus the near 88% that you saw on the prior slide for the elementary district. And so the supplemental and concentration grant amounts are lower on this slide than the prior slide because the student population that we serve, the student demographics are a little different than what we have in the elementary district. Other revenue assumptions for the current year and also the multi-year projection is deferred and prior year revenue. So you see $150 million. What this represents, we received a large portion of our COVID funds late in the year last year. While we had a spending plan for them, we did not utilize all of the funding by June 30th. And so we rebudget that in the current year, either through what's called prior year revenue or deferred revenue. So $150 million we are adding to our budget right now because we didn't know what the unspent dollars were in June when we adopted the budget. Increase to special education through the IDEA program of $581,000, Title I, Title III, and then interest earnings. So we're in a little better interest earning environment now than we were a year ago. And so you can see the anticipated revisions here on this slide. Just like the revenue pie chart, this pie looks different from prior years due to COVID expenditures currently budgeted, and specifically in other services, which you see is at 25%. So what happens with some of our dollars until we get ready to spend them, we put a placeholder in our budget. You saw the revenue on the other side, the $150 million of revenue. We have to have a corresponding expenditure in order to make our budget balance. And so a lot of times we'll put those in other services, which you see here at 25%, until we actually have a spending plan in place to spend those dollars. Typically, this would be in the 10 to 12% range for our district. So again, this is a COVID looking budget for both revenues and expenditures. This slide shows the percentage increase for STRS and PERS pension reform. and the financial impact to our budget. Seeing the rate incline diminish in 23-24, if you notice for STRS, right now it's projected to stay at 19.10% for next year and the following year. It feels pretty good. But until you remember that in 2013-14, less than 10 years ago, STRS was 8.25%. That was our employer portion for STRS, and PERS was 8%. And so you can see what that's done. By the third year of the multi-year projection, 10 years later, both STRS and PERS have more than doubled from what the employer cost used to be in the 2013-14 school year. And you can see the year-over-year increase, $4.4 million this year in STRS from the prior year, $1.1 million in PERS, and then $3.9 million, another $3.9 million increase next year, $2 million in PERS, and then just a $400,000 increase. You might be asking, why is there a $400,000 increase when the percentage didn't change? But this reflects just our built-in cost increases for salaries. We have step and column increases, so as those go up, the employer portion, even though the percentage doesn't change, it's going to drive up the overall cost for our pensions attached to our salaries. Other expenditure assumptions that we have in the budget now that we did not know on June 30th is school site staffing and allocation adjustments due to the first month student enrollment counts. We now have adjusted our site budgets for these two areas. Last year, carryover balances and deferred revenue expenditures that we're now putting into this year budget. One-time approved expenditures for 21-22. Anything we've approved in a one-time nature is now part of this budget. And we also have included now a salary negotiation settlements with both the Modesto Teachers Association and the managers group. Multi-year projection summary, we have, as I mentioned earlier, we assume step and column costs of 1.5% for our employees. Those are built-in contractual obligations that we have for either more years of service in the district or teachers getting more credits and then moving across the salary schedule for our teacher salary schedule. Pension cost increases, as I mentioned earlier. But we do remove any one-time expenditures from the current year for our multi-year projection. If it's something that was added in one time, we make sure we take it out so it doesn't reduce our ending fund balance for the out years of the multi-year projection, including the one-year MTA settlement for 21-22. That is removed from our projections for 22-23 and 23-24, and the removal of any carryover or deferred expenditures. This shows our unrestricted ending fund balance, and just go to the bottom. We have a very solid percentage, unassigned percentage of our unrestricted ending fund balance. So it shows we are in a very good financial position, not only for the current year, but for the multi-year projection years as well. And as I mentioned in January, we do expect the revenue assumptions to increase. So it's probably going to be look a little better at second interim when we bring back to you second interim in March. Next steps, as I mentioned, California's economy is growing much faster than the national average. And 22-23 is shaping up to be another good year for education funding. However, with every good news, there's some possible, bad news. But the anticipated COLA for next year is increasing due to cost increases subject to inflation. So as our cost goes up, the way the formula factor works in education is it drives up what is called the COLA. It's adjusted for current year inflation. So as that goes higher, typically our costs are probably going up with it as well. We are hoping for some legislative relief around the ADA funding cliff for declining enrollment. Since the last 2 years, we've been subject to a hold harmless agreement, and it's given us somewhat of a false sense of financial security So typically our revenue would be decreasing year over year because we're declining enrollment. And we haven't seen that for 2 years now. So there's a potential to see that in 22-23 if there's nothing done legislatively for relief around declining enrollment districts. And then second interim in March will include expenditure increases that are not currently in the budget that you see here. The approved MOU with California School Employees Association for position range increases, management compensation study adjustments. They're not reflected in our current year budget nor the multi-year projection. And then finalizing collective bargaining with CSEA when that's completed. So we'll bring that to you in March with the second interim. Based on the factors and assumptions that I've stated in the presentation and what you see in the agenda packet, the district recommends the board approve the report with a positive financial certification, not only for the general fund, but for all funds of the district. And with that, I will answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Surley. We'll go out to the public. Is there anyone wanting to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll open it up for the board. Any questions or comments? And we have Trustee West.
I want to thank you, Mr. Zierle, for always making these reports understandable to those of us who are not necessarily numbers people, and I just appreciate this report. I also want to say I appreciate you and the team for making sure that we are financially solvent. I know this district has always been, or for as long as I've known, has been really good about that, and I appreciate that. I know times are good now, but we have to prepare for when times aren't so good, and I appreciate the fact that that we are on top of that, and so I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Zierle.
Great. We have Trustee Marks as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Great report. Lots of great information here. I had a question on the pension expenditure assumptions. Are we going to continue? I just can't remember how far they want us, what percent they're going to end at. Because it is going up every year. They're leveling out for a couple of years, and then is it going back up again?
So with PERS, if you, the slide, it stopped at 19.1%.
Right.
However, STRS can implement, the STRS board can implement an increase depending on the current financial situation of the program.
Okay.
So that could go up, but right now our estimates are through 23-24 at 19.1%.
Okay.
The same with PERS, and so, but that again, that through legislation can be increased as well at any time if the fund needs it.
Okay, yeah, because I remember when Governor Brown leveled it out for a little while because he knew it was really hitting us hard, and then it started back up on that steep trajectory, and now that we're at 19%, I was like, man, it's high. So just the amount that we have to put in every year is quite significant. So it
eats away at every dollar that get increased through the local control funding formula. That goes first. Before anything else.
Yes, I know. He did a bait and switch on that one that year. So, but thank you. I appreciate this, just seeing where we are and what the future will hold. So I'm planning to support this and vote yes to approve it.
Thank you. Vice President Brown.
Yes, I appreciate this report and the fact that it was probably fun to put it together this time, where there's nice amounts of money in all the pockets. We can celebrate that because we don't get to celebrate that very often. But as you have identified the ADA cliff that we're approaching, I paid close attention to that discussion at several presentations at the CSBA conference, and there was a reassuring message that came from several of the advisors that spoke and said that there is strong efforts in the state to revise the ADA funding formulas based on the fact that almost every district in the state is experiencing declining enrollment in current conditions. So I'm hopeful and recognize that we need to be prepared to lobby strongly to have those formulas be not punishing to districts, but support the need for level funding even in declining enrollment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're hopeful and supportive of anything that steps us down. We're not saying we should be funded for students we don't have, but the hold harmless agreement, while it was welcome, you can see the harm in it on the slide, where once that's over, you have 2 years of declining enrollment for those of us that are in decline. And as you mentioned, predominantly the state of California is declining in average daily attendance. So we would want something that steps that down or averages it out, maybe a 3-year period, to get us to where we need to be. And hopefully there's an interest there. We're hearing the same thing you're hearing.
Yeah, so hoping to see some creativity in that funding formula.
Great, thank you very much. Is there any other questions? If not, or any comments, if not, do I hear a motion to approve the approval of the first interim financial report for the 2021-2022 and positive financial certification?
I move approval.
I have approval from Trustee Marks. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Trustee Maestas. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. Okay, and now we're moving on to B6, which is our final section for the night, but it encompasses a lot of other ones in between. So bear with us while I guide myself through this. The B6 is the Board of Education will recess and convene as the Modesto City Schools Joint Powers Authority. So now I will gavel us out of the Modesto City Schools Board schools meeting, and now I will gavel us into the Joint Powers Authority. And the first action is to approve the minutes from the meeting on December 14th of 2020. Do I hear a motion to approve? We have a motion by Trustee West. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Maestas. All those in favor signify by raising your hand saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. Our second item, and please let me know if I'm doing this correctly, we'll now complete the annual election of Modesto City Schools Joint Powers Authority officers. I would like to request a motion to approve the officers as slated on the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I move approval, and I'll just state what they are. The chair is the president of the board, the vice chair is the vice president, the executive director is the superintendent, the associate executive director is the associate superintendent business services, the treasurer is senior director financial services, and the secretary is the superintendent. So I make a motion to approve those officers.
Thank you very much, Trustee Marks. We have a motion by Trustee Marks. Do we have a second? Seconded by Trustee Mejia. All those in favor signify by raising your hand saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. I will need a motion to approve the authorization of the annual audit of the accounts and records of the authority for the fiscal year ended in June 30, 2021, and the direction to staff to transmit the report accordingly. Do we have a motion?
Just for a point of clarification on this, the audit has not been completed. I mean, this is part of our annual audit. You will see that. The board will see it when we bring the audit to you in February this year. But I just want to be, it's not as if we're asking you to let us transmit it now, because it's not completed. So, but you will see it when we come back with the annual audit report.
Great.
So
You have
I have a question. So we're going to authorize just that their records will be completed for the end of the year.
Yeah, it's just one of those annual
Right.
things we have to do as the JPA in order to have the audit included in our annual audit report for the district.
Okay, I just didn't remember it not being done by this time, so I'm,
Well, another advantage of COVID is they've given us, it's now been extended. And so audit reports are now due a month later than they have been in the past, so.
so do we need to, so in the motion, do we need to approve it pending its conclusion or something like that?
No, I think
It's okay?
the motion is as
Okay,
stated
just
is
to
what we
approve
need.
it, okay.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve?
So I'll approve the authorization of the annual audit.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Trustee Maestas. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimously. And do we have to? Now we go out to the public. Are there any comments from the public on this agenda item? I see none. Thank you. And we'll adjourn as the Modesto City Schools Joint Powers Authority. So gavel us out of Joint Powers Authority, and now I'll gavel us back in to our regular board meeting. And with that, we reconvene as the Modesto City Schools Board of Education, and we move on to item B8, approval of resolution number 2122-12, approving a joint exercise of power agreement between the Modesto City Schools District and the Sylvan Union School District, and the selection of board representatives, 2 of them and 2 alternatives to this board. And this will be Mr. Searling giving us more information on this.
Yes, thank you, President Lopez. I am pleased to turn it over to Senior Director Dwayne Wolterstorff, who is the architect of this third Mello-Roos district that we're going to have, so he can explain the process with you now.
Good evening, President Lopez, Board of Education, Superintendent Noguchi, and the Cabinet. As Tim mentioned, I'm Dwayne Wolterstorff, Senior Director of Planning and Facilities, and coming before you to bring information about this new JPA, and that our district and Sylvan has signed agreements, their school impact mitigation agreements, with landowners in the areas of Crossroads West specific plan area and the Tivoli specific plan area. Those are 2 upcoming development areas. Fact is, Crossroads West is already starting to build homes out there. If you take a drive out Oakdale Road to Riverbank, you'll notice all the activity going out there. And it is anticipated that the Tivoli area will be starting in the coming calendar year as well. With those agreements that we signed, we have agreed that once development starts, we will create what's called community facility districts. And it gives us the opportunity to set up a financing mechanism so that we can fund the necessary school buildings that we need because of the growth that's going to come from these new homes being built in those areas. And we need to form a joint powers authority to manage those community facility districts. And so this resolution that we're coming to you is giving us authority to enter into that joint powers authority with Sylvan, and creating this new entity And then that new entity will then create the community facility districts, so we can start the taxing mechanism so that we can issue bonds to fund the schools that will come out of those development areas. So part of this too is we're asking you to also assign board members that will serve on this new entity. I am going to make a request that if we could have the same board members as we have for school infrastructure financing agency, CIFA. Those members also serve on this because it's going to meet on the same night. It'll be CIFA meeting first, and Miss CIFA will be meeting right after it. So with that, I'm open for any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Any questions from the board or any nominations on two board representatives, or do I know we heard a request to have it be the same, possibly be the same board members that are on our CIFA board, which are correct if I'm wrong, Urban Maestas, and the alternative Marks and myself. Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion to that, or does anyone want to make a motion to something different?
We need a motion first for the resolution and then a motion for the membership.
Okay.
Okay.
So I motion to approve the resolution 21-22-12, approving the joint exercise powers that are being between Modesto High School District and Silver Unified School District.
That's one. Okay. So, and it was motioned by Trustee Mejia and seconded by Trustee West. And now we vote. Okay. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I believe we had a mistake there, but
In that area, your taxes go up.
so the resolution is approved unanimously. Now, do I hear a motion to for the selection of the board representatives of board trustee Irvin and board trustee Maestas, with President Lopez and board trustee Marks as alternatives? Do I hear a motion?
I motion that we keep the same members of representatives of the joint exercise power to be Urban and
Great. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by trustee Marks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, selection is approved unanimously. Great, thank you very much. And now, before we end our meeting tonight, is there any items that to be placed on future Board of Education agenda? Seeing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn our meeting for tonight? The motion by Vice President Brown and seconded by Trustee West. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Have a good night.